Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu delivers a defiant UN speech, slams Western support for Palestinian state and vows to block its recognition. Russia-Ukraine conflict escalates with deadly strikes, refinery attack. Talks begin on EU drone wall defense. Indian Air Force bids farewell to legendary MiG-21 fighter jets. The Flying Falcon retires after 6 decades of glorious service. The Trump administration unveils broad new tariffs of up to 100% on goods from drugs to cabinets, sparking a global backlash. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a defiant speech at the UN General Assembly today, defending Israel's military actions in Gaza and denying accusations of genocide. Netanyahu condemned countries recognizing Palestinian statehood. Many nations also boycotted his address, in which he affirmed that Israel will finish what it started in Gaza. Here's our report.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave a defiant UN speech declaring the truth of Israel and its soldiers to the world.
Half the Houthi leadership in Yemen, gone. Yahya Sinwar in Gaza, gone. Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon, gone. The Assad regime in Syria, gone. Those militias in Iraq, well, they're still deterred. And their leaders, if they attack Israel, will also be gone. Iran's top military commanders and his top atomic bomb scientist, well, they're gone too.
Netanyahu slammed Western leaders for recognizing Palestine, rejecting a state in the heart of Israel as a surrender to terror.
Our enemies hate all of us with equal venom. They want to drag the modern world back to the past, to a dark age of violence, fanaticism, and terror. I think many of you are already feeling in your own societies the radical Islamist surge. You know, I'm sure you do, you know deep down that Israel is fighting your fight.
On Thursday, Palestinian President Abbas, via video, urged global support for Palestinian statehood, vowing Hamas would be excluded.
Despite all that our people have suffered, we reject what Hamas carried out on October 7th, acts that targeted Israeli civilians and took them as hostages, because such actions do not represent the Palestinian people nor their just struggle for freedom and independence.
Netanyahu stressed defeating Hamas, freeing hostages, and advancing peace on Israel's terms. He'll meet President Trump on September 29th, who opposes West Bank annexation.
I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. No, I will not allow it. It's not going to happen.
With 150 plus nations recognizing Palestine, Netanyahu and Israel face growing isolation. President Trump, meanwhile, believes peace is near.
And we spoke to all the leaders in the Middle East, who are great people, and we're getting pretty close to having a deal on Gaza, and maybe even peace, which would be the first time in about, 2,000 years, I think.
President Trump's Gaza peace plan calls for a ceasefire, hostage release, Hamas removal, phased Israeli withdrawal, Arab peacekeepers, limited Palestinian Authority roles, aid, and reconstruction while opposing West Bank annexation. Netanyahu, wanted by the ICC for alleged crime against humanity, took a longer flight to the UN, avoiding European airspace and ICC member states. The detour added nearly 3 hours to his journey. Bureau Report, DD India.
The US President Donald Trump has said that he is close to a deal to end the conflict in Gaza and bring hostages home. Trump made the comments to reporters before departing the White House to attend the Ryder Cup golf tournament in New York on Friday.
And it's looking like we have a deal on Gaza. And we'll let you know. I think it's a deal that will get the hostages back. It's going to be a deal that will end the war. It's going to be a deal with, it's going to be peace. I think we have a deal. That'll be number 8, Peter. Not bad.
The Russia-Ukraine conflict shows no signs of easing, with both sides ramping up attacks and deepening the crisis. Ukraine's drone attack on a Russian oil facility follows deadly Russian bombings in Kherson. Meanwhile, EU is now considering a drone wall to counter rising threats near its eastern border. Here's the report.
Russia and Ukraine continue to mount attacks on each other, with both sides vowing to retaliate with more severe aggression. In the Ukrainian city of Kherson, Russian strikes involving around 15 guided bombs and artillery shelling damaged buildings and set vehicles ablaze on Friday. 1 person was killed and 8 others injured. In response, Ukraine launched a drone attack overnight on Russia's Efipsky oil refinery in the Krasnodar region, causing a fire at the facility. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned Russian officials to start checking for bomb shelters if Moscow does not stop its attacks on Ukraine.
First of all, they have to know where their bomb shelters are. If they will not stop the war, they will need it in any case.
European Union countries began initial talks on Friday to build a drone wall of defenses along the bloc's eastern border in response to increasing Russian drone activity. The idea was first proposed earlier this month by EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who called for a joint European system to detect and respond to drone threats in real time.
An immediate priority for drone wall, which with advanced detection, which really we lack in some places, tracking of drones and interception capabilities of drones, ground wall with anti-mobility systems, maritime security for the Baltic and Black Sea, and space-based situational awareness, which is also very much needed.
Meanwhile, Russia has declined to comment on a Bloomberg report claiming that European diplomats privately warned Moscow that NATO may shoot down any Russian aircraft violating European airspace.
You know, I don't even want to talk about it. It's a very irresponsible statement. It's very irresponsible because accusations against Russia that its military aircraft violated someone's airspace and intruded into someone's skies are groundless. No convincing evidence has been presented. We insist that our military aircrafts make all its flights strictly according to international rules.
Peace talks between Russia and Ukraine remain stalled, with no clear diplomatic path forward. Amid the deadlock, Russian forces continue to make territorial gains, recapturing settlements and advancing on multiple fronts. While global calls for renewed negotiations persist, both sides appear focused on the battlefield for now. Rabindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
The Trump administration has fired yet another salvo. This is a tariff salvo we are talking about, and this time hitting everything from branded drugs to kitchen cabinets. The sweeping measures aimed at bolstering American manufacturing are actually drawing sharp criticism at home and abroad. Here's the report.
Pharma majors across the globe are set to experience a roller coaster ride as US President Donald Trump on Thursday unveiled sweeping new import tariffs, including 100% duties on branded pharmaceutical drugs. The US President also plans 25% levies on heavy-duty trucks. The new tariffs are set to come into force next week. In another announcement, Trump imposed a 50% tariff on kitchen cabinets and a 30% duty on upholstered furniture, widening the scope of products targeted in the tariff campaign. The president justified the move as essential to protect US manufacturing and national security. He also announced that proceeds from the tariff revenues would be directed to American farmers.
And we're going to take some of that tariff money that we made, we're going to give it to our farmers, who are, for a little while, going to be hurt until it kicks in. The tariffs kick into their benefit. So we're going to make sure that our farmers are in great shape because we're taking in a lot of money. We're finding, the other day, it was very interesting, they found 31 billion.
On the international front, Australia has lashed out at Washington, calling the tariffs unfair and unjustified.
The core objective of the US administration is to lower drug prices in their own country, and they're using tariffs as a tool to try and achieve that objective, which is a matter between the US administration and big pharma companies, whether they're American or non-American companies. I guess our job now is to protect the interests of Australians, most importantly Australian patients, who have benefited for almost 80 years from the PBS, a great Labor legacy from the 1940s, and also to do what we can to support Australian companies who might be hit by what we regard as unfair, unjustified tariffs after 20 years of free trade.
India too has voiced concern, with the government saying the relevant ministries are closely monitoring the situation and examining the impact of Trump's new duty on patented pharmaceutical drugs.
कल जो एक नोटिस आया था सोशल मीडिया पोस्ट पे हम लोगों ने देखा है कि नए टैरिफ की बात हो रही है फार्मा पे और भी अन्य कुछ पदार्थ पे, तो इस रिपोर्ट को हम लोगों ने देखा है और हमारे यहाँ जो मंत्रालय जो विभाग इससे संबंधित है वो इस मामले पे नज़र रखे हैं और उस पे देख रहे हैं कि क्या उस पर असर पड़ता है.
Trump's latest tariff strike signals no let-up in his protectionist push, one that risks reshaping not just America's trade relationships, but also the global economic order. With Amish Mahajan, Amit Mukherjee for DD India.
Well, India's reputation as the world's trusted pharmacy is reaching new markets. Now, following strong signals from Dutch health officials at the major expo in New Delhi, the Netherlands is now looking to import more Indian generic drugs or medicines. From the Netherlands, here's a special report.
Here in the Netherlands, Indian generic medicines are gaining ground. With rising concerns over supply shortages and market dependence, Dutch health officials are turning to India, the world's trusted pharmacy, for affordable, high-quality drugs. As European countries look to strengthen their medicine supply chains, the Netherlands is turning more and more to India, a global leader in affordable, high-quality generics. With Dutch demand rising and strong government interest, new opportunities are opening up for Indian pharmaceutical companies, like Sun Pharma behind me.
There is a increased requirement of chronic medicines, very specialty drugs like oncology and immunology. So India has a strength in generic medicines, in low volume, high value oncology or immunology products. So that's the biggest, I would say, opportunity for India to supply and be a reliable partner for generic medicines. At the same time, any Indian pharma company which want to distribute medicine in Europe, Netherlands can become a gateway for them because of the fantastic road and distribution networks. So that's again one more opportunity for Indian pharma to have a collaboration with the Dutch market.
With one of the highest generic medicines uptakes in Europe, the Netherlands offers a stable and promising market. For Indian companies like Sun Pharma, this is not just about exports, it's about trusted partnerships, meeting high European standards and contributing to accessible healthcare worldwide. What does this growing partnership between India and the Netherlands mean for the future of Indian drug exports to Europe?
Yes, the impact is both way. From the Netherlands perspective, Netherlands is of course seeking to find a strong partner who can supply generic and a biosimilar with a reliable supply chain. And from the Indian perspective, this is the Indian pharma company also have to show commitment that they can be a reliable supplier. For Indian companies also, this is the opportunity to diversify their exports. This can be a really alternative for the exports of the big pharma companies, and Netherlands can function as a European hub or a gateway for the European market.
Mark Limburg reporting from Hoofddorp, the Netherlands, for DD India.
And still to come here on DD India NewsHour. Deadly storms batter Pacific and Atlantic. Typhoons hit the Philippines and Taiwan. Global Ecotourism Summit opens in Morocco, highlights green projects and $70 million USD sustainability push. Russia hosts the 20th Dialogue of Cultures in Delhi, urges stronger media ties with India amid global tensions.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, after more than 6 decades of service, one of India's most iconic fighter jets has flown into the sunset. The Indian Air Force has officially retired the legendary MiG-21s, bringing an end to a remarkable era in Indian military aviation. The final squadrons were formally decommissioned in Chandigarh on Friday, with the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh in attendance and the Air Chief Marshal AP Singh flying the last sortie. Our correspondent Vishal Barristow reports.
The Indian Air Force bid farewell to its iconic MiG-21 fighter jets after an extraordinary service span of 62 years. The final 2 squadrons, number 23 Panthers and number 3 Cobras, which together operated around 36 jets, were formally retired in Chandigarh during a decommissioning ceremony. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh attended the event, and Air Chief Marshal AP Singh flew the last MiG-21 sortie with the call sign Badal 3.
इतने लंबे समय तक MiG-21 अनेक वीरतापूर्ण कृत्यों का साक्षी रहा है। इसका योगदान किसी एक घटना तक या केवल एक युद्ध तक सीमित नहीं रहा है। 1971 के वार से लेकर कारगिल के युद्ध तक या फिर बालाकोट एयर स्ट्राइक से लेकर ऑपरेशन सिंदूर तक ऐसा कोई क्षण नहीं रहा जब MiG-21 ने हमारी आर्म्ड फोर्सेस को जबरदस्त मजबूती न प्रदान की हो।
For 6 decades, the MiG-21 was the backbone of India's aerial defense, serving in key conflicts from 1971 to the Balakot operations. The Indian Air Force described it as not just a fighter but a symbol of resilience, reflecting the bond between the aircraft and the personnel who flew and maintained it. The farewell marks an emotional moment as the jet flies into the sunset, though it will not be sent to the scrapyard. Inducted in 1963, India ordered 874 MiG-21s across various variants. With Mark II speed and versatile capabilities to defend, strike and scout, it bridged the gap from propeller-era fighters to modern jets and trained generations of Indian pilots in supersonic combat.
wherever MiG-21 was asked to do perform any role, operational role, it has excelled and it is done better than what was expected out of it. Whether it was 65 war, whether it was 71 war, whether it was Balakot or even Op Sindoor.
From 1965 to Operation Sindoor, MiG-21 has been the backbone of Indian Air Force. After having served the country for 6 long decades, now is the time to say goodbye. But one thing is very much clear, that this flying machine has been a testimony of Indo-Russian defense cooperation. With cameraman Vishwa Bandhu in Chandigarh, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
Well, from Nal Air Base in Chandigarh, the Indian Air Force salutes a legend for one last time. The MiG-21, India's first supersonic fighter, wasn't just an aircraft. It was the symbol of a young nation's confidence, a fearless guardian that carried the Indian Air Force into the jet age.
Inducted in 1963, India ordered a total of 874 MiG-21s of different variants, making the aircraft Indian Air Force's backbone for several decades. The MiG-21, with its Mach 2 speed and versatility, defend, strike and scout. It bridged the gap from propeller-era fighters to modern jets and trained generations of Indian pilots in supersonic combat.
As we listen to the experiences of those who lived and breathed this machine, we will try to capture not just the history of this aircraft, but the story of an era that shaped the Indian Air Force. I quote Air Marshal P.C. Lal, who said, "The MiG-21 gave the IAF wings it never had before," unquote.
Thousands of our Air Force professionals have shared an important part of their lives with the MiG-21, and I am proud to be one among them. We respectfully remember those who taught us the aircraft to learn and to respect it. I recall the camaraderie and memorable time that we nurtured under its wings, that reminded us often that it is the team that matters.
The jet first saw action in 1965 war, but its true moment came in 1971. In the Battle of Boira, MiG-21s engaged Pakistani Sabres and a starfighter, scoring victories in the world's first supersonic dogfight. From striking enemy airfields in Dhaka to providing cover for troops, the MiG-21 proved decisive in securing the skies. Former Chief of the Indian Air Force, Air Chief Marshal P.V. Nayak recalls the role the MiGs played in protecting the nation.
MiG-21 has always been my first love. And in the MiG-21s, the Type 77 Ultimate, the Ferrari of MiG-21s. I was lucky. We were about 3 or 4 people who were selected from pilot officer days to fly the convert onto MiG-21s and fly them.
We fell in love with the aircraft as soon as we reported in Tezpur. The simplicity of the aircraft, and not only that, we were surprised. The checks and procedures were, simpler than the aircraft we had flown previously, easier to learn.
Decades later, in Kargil, upgraded MiG-21 Bison struck enemy positions at high altitudes. And even in 2019, during Balakot, they stood ready at the front line.
The MiG-21 taught us how to be innovative, to make do with what we have, and produce results.
For more than 60 years, the MiG-21 flew countless missions, guarding borders, supporting troops, and inspiring generations. Today, the Flying Falcon bows out. Replaced by homegrown Tejas, its roar may fade, but its spirit of speed, skill, and sacrifice will forever echo across India's skies. Vishal Baristo, DD India, Chandigarh.
Well, for decades, this aircraft was the backbone of India's aerial defense, serving in key conflicts from 1971 to the Balakot operations. An Indian Air Force tribute describes the aircraft as not just a fighter, but a symbol of resilience, highlighting the deep connection between the machine and the personnel who flew and maintained it. The farewell marks an emotional moment as the jet flies into the sunset, but the aircraft will not be sent to the scrapyard. As its engines fall silent, the MiG-21's legacy will be etched forever in the history of the Indian Air Force. In a bid to strengthen not only strategic but also cultural ties with India, the Russian House in New Delhi on Friday hosted the 20th Dialogue of Cultures Forum. Russia underlined that amid global uncertainties, cooperation and dialogue among journalists and media institutions of both countries are crucial. The event was also part of the series commemorating the 80th anniversary of the victory in World War II. The keynote address was delivered by Mr. Ashot Jozayan, Secretary of the Union of Journalists of Russia and the Chairman of the Commonwealth of Journalists Media Congress. On the occasion, an art exhibition was also held featuring works of Indian artist Nishant Kumar Meena. Cultural diplomacy and people-to-people exchanges were highlighted as vital pillars of India-Russia relations. Deadly storms are striking across oceans. In the Pacific, Typhoon Bualoy killed at least 3 in the Philippines, while Typhoon Ragasa's rains left devastation in Taiwan. And in the Atlantic, Portugal's Uzuaz brace for Cyclone Gabriel with red alerts in place. Nishchoy Roy reports.
From the Philippines to Taiwan in the Pacific and across to Portugal's Azores in northern Atlantic, a chain of powerful storms is wreaking havoc this week. Typhoons and cyclones have left trails of destruction, forcing evacuation, disrupting lives, and putting entire regions on high alert. At least 3 people were killed in the Philippines after tropical storm Bualoy, which briefly intensified into a typhoon, swept across central islands. The storm battered eastern Samar, Masbate, and the Bicol region with winds of up to 135 kilometers per hour, forcing work and school closures. Residents in the capital Manila took precautions by moving into evacuation centers.
We live just by the corner of the river, and it would be difficult when the water rises. When the flood surges, the flood waters reach up to the 3rd floor of our homes, and we would not be able to leave. I have children, and I don't want anything to happen to them.
In Taiwan, Super Typhoon Ragasa's torrential rains caused a barrier lake to overflow, submerging Guangfu town in thick mud. At least 14 deaths and 11 missing were reported as rescue efforts continued.
My oldest sister is inside, so she was inside when it happened. Her son-in-law took a risk, and when the water receded, my sister didn't try to leave until the water reached her waist. So she died in the house because it was completely filled with mud and there was no way to get her out.
Meanwhile, in Europe, Portugal's Azores Islands braced for Cyclone Gabriel with red alerts issued, schools shut, and storm surges forecast up to 18 meters. From Asia's typhoon belt to the Atlantic's storm tracks, millions remain on edge, bracing for nature's next strike. Nishchoy Roy's report for DD India.
Well, let's take a look at other stories making news from around the world. In Northern Ireland, the world's last commercial linen beetling mill is keeping a centuries-old craft alive. It was founded by William Clark and Sons in 1736. This mill continues the traditional process of beetling, which gives linen its unique sheen and durability. Spain is hosting the first ever San Diego Comic Con outside the United States. The 4-day event is taking place in Malaga, and it mirrors the iconic Californian convention with film showcases, gaming, and it highlights gaming highlights, that is, and fans in colorful costumes as well. A power outage briefly plunged New York's Grand Central Station into darkness on Thursday night. While parts of the historic terminal lost lighting, train services continued without disruption. Power was later restored, and officials are investigating the cause. A global conference on ecotourism kicked off in Ifran, which is in Morocco, spotlighting green travel and also responsible investment. Experts and officials gathered to promote nature-friendly tourism, with the Ifran National Park also acting as a shining example. Backed by over 730 million dirhams, the park's eco-projects reflect Morocco's push for sustainable tourism and international cooperation. Two Guinness World Records were set by Brazilian skateboarder Sandro Deacin in Brazil's Porto Alegre. Now, he skated from a 21-story building, reaching the height of 70 meters, impressing his fans with this daring feat. Well, still to come here on DD India NewsHour. We'll get you an expert's take on Netanyahu's UNGA speech and its implications. The NCERT will grant Class 10 and 12 certificate equivalents for admissions jobs under the NEP 2020. The Indian Navy's first training squadron docks in Mombasa for joint drills, cultural outreach under Mahasagar Vision. Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. The Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu delivers a defiant UN speech. He slams Western support for Palestinian state and vows to block its recognition. Russia-Ukraine conflict escalates with deadly strikes, refinery attack. Talks begin on EU drone wall defense. The Trump administration unveils broad new tariffs, up to 100% on goods from drugs to cabinets, sparking global backlash. And to deconstruct the Israeli Prime Minister's address to the UN General Assembly, we have with us Ambassador S.R. Tayal, former senior diplomat, joining us. Ambassador Tayal, thank you very much for being with us. Now, does Netanyahu's stance on Palestine clash with Trump's peace plan that he spoke about when he addressed the UN?
It certainly does. What is very clear is that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu does not at all believe in a two-state solution. Now, because that is the crux of the problem, and Gaza and whatever conflict is going on is a subset of that bigger problem. Now, President Trump is trying to focus on bringing this Gaza conflict to some kind of a ceasefire or close. And again, he has made some statement yesterday that some plan is being worked out, and Prime Minister Netanyahu will be meeting President Trump on Monday in the White House. But to me, the chances of any kind of cessation of hostilities appear to be quite bleak. Because the entire mood in the Israeli cabinet is of a triumph. That this is the moment that Americans are solidly behind them. So to finish off Gaza and also try to annex West Bank, and President Trump had to very clearly say that America will never allow annexation of West Bank, and that was after President Trump's meeting in New York with leaders of Muslim and Arab countries. So there is a lot of pressure on President Trump
Right.
from the rest of the world, in fact, because on 13 September 2025, when there was a special discussion in United Nations on this issue of Palestine, 142 countries
Yes.
voted for a two-state solution, including India.
Right. Absolutely.
And
So,
opposed. So, but I don't see any very
okay.
early cessation of hostilities, unfortunately.
So, given the fact that so many countries have, supported the two-state solution and even recognized a Palestinian state, is Netanyahu's, description of his campaign as a war on terror actually justified, given, the kind of civilian toll in Gaza?
No, that is not justified, because on whatever scale there cannot be collective punishment, and more than 60,000 Palestinians have died. Of course, the 7th October attack 2 years back was a very blatant and gruesome act of terrorism where 1,200 Israelis were killed. But there has to be some sense of proportion in taking revenge for that attack. And in any case, the entire civilian population of Gaza was not responsible. But the way Prime Minister Netanyahu is going in that direction, he wants to finish off the possibility of a two-state solution. And that's why suddenly those European countries who are otherwise quite inert and not doing anything have decided to recognize Palestine, half a dozen of them. UK, France, Australia, Portugal, Canada, Belgium, etc., just to keep this decision of the United Nations of 1948 to have two states. That was the decision of the United Nations, which really led to the creation of Israel in 1948. And at the side by side, that resolution said that there will be a state of Palestine. So the whole world is committed to the two-state solution, which Israel, which is itself is a creation of that particular resolution,
Yes.
is now repudiating, is now not following. But as it has been said, that till US is the only power that counts in this conflict.
Okay.
Europeans are irrelevant. They have no say, they have no power, they have no nothing. And of course, the global south has been saying very, very clearly about two-state solution, and there should not be so much of loss of life and material. But again, their voice is not very has any weight.
Fair
So
enough.
it is ultimately President Trump's decision what he wants to do, in this
Right,
conflict.
Ambassador Thayal, but if we look at, from the point of view of what the Palestinians claim to be doing, the Palestinian President Mohammed Abbas, he rejected Hamas as playing a role at all. Will this, sort of help the peace process, would you think? I mean, is that what something that, because Netanyahu doesn't accept that, but maybe the Americans would?
Most certainly, because you see, even if you look at the history of all this conflict, again and again, Palestine Liberation Organization, Palestine Authority, and the Yasser Arafat, they tried to come to some kind of an agreement. Camp David agreement, we all remember when the President Clinton, and it elements like Hamas, which really prevented Yasser Arafat from coming to any kind of a workable solution. And one must always note that after every war, Palestinians have lost more territory, have lost more rights, have lost more people. So Hamas is a cancer. Hamas has to be removed if Palestine is to survive, and Israel-Palestine relations become to some kind of an even keel, because should be peaceful. So yes, there are seeds of an agreement there that Hamas will be out of the picture, and the peaceful elements in the Palestine Authority and the erstwhile Palestine Liberation Organization who have accepted Israel as a state.
Yes.
They are not saying to drive Israel in the sea, etc. And so, yes, they are very good interlocutors. And
Well,
if United
actually,
States,
part of Trump's plan is also to have Arab peacekeepers in the region and Hamas removed. So, I mean, what will you think about the Arabs playing a role in peacekeeping in that region?
the Arabs are also not at all with Hamas because of several reasons. And because Hamas is against monarchies and all kinds of things, there are very complex issues. But yes, Arab peacekeeping force is a workable idea. And on that basis, because Israel will also require security guarantees that Palestine Authority or Palestine state, when it emerges, should not pose a threat to Israel. So it will
Right.
need to be demilitarized. And for Palestine state security, the Arab peacekeeping forces can provide that security. Yes, that is a workable solution.
Also, Ambassador Tayal, Netanyahu, of course, has an arrest warrant against him by the ICC, and he had to take a very long route to reach New York, 3 hours long, avoiding all sorts of countries in Europe. What does this show, I mean, about the global standing about Israel currently?
See, the prevailing mood and the whole, if you say Zionism, etc., they go back 2000 years and they feel that it is a historical moment that to
Well,
claim
actually,
back.
did he do it just for for optics, or because I'm sure none of those countries would have stopped his plane from flying over. They had given overflight also. But the point is that he was afraid that his plane would be forced to land and he would be arrested.
Sometimes the courts issue some orders and the forces follow that. So I think he wanted to avoid any contingency of that kind because sometimes the local courts issue a directive to the administration to take certain actions. And in the rule of law, the court's orders prevail. So I think he wanted to avoid anything of that kind. But Prime Minister Netanyahu is driven by this absolute conviction he has that he will not accept two-state solution, and this is the time because he has total support in the White House
Right.
to make sure that Israel's land keeps on increasing, and he is going about it in a very single-minded manner.
Indeed, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sartaya. Thank you for joining us and breaking that down for us. Now, moving on to our next story, India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, participated in the G4 Foreign Ministers meeting held in New York alongside his counterparts from Japan, Germany, and Brazil. The ministers reiterated their long-standing demand for comprehensive reform of the United Nations, particularly the UN Security Council. Dr. Jaishankar, in a post on X, said, and I quote, "Glad to join the G4 ministers, the foreign ministers meeting, along with my colleagues Takeshi Iwaya, Johan Wadepul, and Mauro Vieira in New York today." The G4 reiterated its commitment to reforming the United Nations, including the UN Security Council. It also assessed the current state of the intergovernmental negotiation, the IGN process, unquote. Earlier, Dr. Jaishankar called for zero tolerance towards terrorism and urged the international communities to avoid any form of accommodation or indifference to terrorist activities.
A persistent threat to development is that perennial disruptor of peace, terrorism. It is imperative that the world display neither tolerance nor accommodation to terrorist activities. Given the extensive networking among terrorists, those who act against them on any front actually render a larger service to the international community as a whole.
Speaking at the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in New York on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly, Dr. Jaishankar referred to the ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza And Jaishankar said that such geopolitical tensions directly impact global energy, food and fertilizer security, especially in the global south.
Our focus today is on the correlation between international peace and global development. In recent times, that is well established as both deteriorated in parallel. The costs, especially to the global south, in terms of energy, food and fertilizer security, were starkly demonstrated by ongoing conflicts, particularly in Ukraine and Gaza. Apart from jeopardizing supplies and logistics, access and costs themselves became pressure points on nations. Double standards are clearly in evidence.
The EAM further said that the global peace and development have seen parallel deterioration in recent times.
Peace can certainly enable development, but by threatening development, we cannot facilitate peace. Making energy and other essentials more uncertain in an economically fragile situation helps no one. Therefore, the way out is to move the needle towards dialogue and diplomacy, not in the opposite direction towards further complications.
Let's take a look at other stories making news in India. On Thursday, ships of the Indian Navy's first training squadron made a port call at Mombasa, Kenya. This is as part of the training deployment to the southwest Indian Ocean region. The visit includes joint exercises, cultural events and outreach activities with the Kenyan Navy. It aims to enhance maritime cooperation under the vision of Mahasagar. The Ministry of Education has entrusted NCERT with granting equivalents to Class 10th and 12th certificates across school boards for admission and government jobs. This responsibility will be carried out through PARAK, NCERT's assessment center. This is under the National Education Policy of 2020 and will apply to institutions and jobs under the center, states and union territories. In a first-of-its-kind move, the government is sending the national flag quiz winners to Siachen from Sunday. It's organized by the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, and 25 students will spend 72 hours with the Indian Army, gaining exposure to leadership and life at the world's highest battlefield. Well, still to come here on DD India NewsHour. In sports, FIFA unveils the mascot for the World Cup 2026. And the former Spain and Barcelona captain, Sergio Busquets, is to retire at the end of the Major League Soccer season in December. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lynn. And let's get you the sports news. Farooq Higher Secondary School from Kerala scripted history at the Ambedkar Stadium. They clinched the junior boys title of the 64th Subroto Cup International Football Tournament, defeating Emetni Public School in a thrilling final. In a neck-and-neck contest, the Kerala side held their nerves to complete their dream run. And here's more.
Farooq Higher Secondary School from Kerala etched their name in history at the Ambedkar Stadium in New Delhi, clinching the junior boys title of the 64th edition of Subroto Cup International Football Tournament. In a pulsating final, they defeated Amenity Public School, CBSE, by 2-0. Takhelamba broke the deadlock in the 20th minute before Adi Krishna sealed the contest in the 62nd minute, sparking jubilant celebrations for the Kerala outfit. The grand closing ceremony added to the spectacle. Air Chief Marshal AP Singh, PVSM AVSM, presented the coveted trophy to the winners. He was joined by Olympian and Indian shooting star Divyansh Singh Panwar, who graced the occasion as guest of honor.
पेरेंट्स देखते हैं, नए बच्चे देखते हैं, वहीं जाके उनको थोड़ा सा अंदर से ऐसा एहसास होता है कि मुझे भी यहाँ पे प्रेजेंट होना चाहिए. डेफिनेटली अगर बच्चों को ग्रास रूट लेवल में उनको एक सपोर्ट मिलेगा या फिर उन्हें कोई देखेगा तो वो क्यों नहीं ऊपर उठना चाहेंगे, वो जाएंगे भी और उठेंगे भी.
हमारे कम से कम 25 से 30 बच्चे ऐसे हैं जिन्होंने एक ज़माने में सुब्रोटो की टी शर्ट पहनी थी और वो आज इंडिया की टी शर्ट पहन रहे हैं. तो आई थिंक सुब्रोटो हैज़ डन जस्टिस व्हेन इट कम्स टू फुटबॉल इन आवर कंट्री.
This year's edition saw as many as 75 matches played across 4 venues in Delhi, from Ambedkar Stadium to Pinto Park, highlighting the scale of India's most prestigious school football tournament.
The 64th edition of Subroto Cup Under-17 boys concluded in grand fashion in New Delhi, with Kerala taking the trophy. This tournament not only showcased the skill and passion of young footballers, but also highlighted how deep the Indian footballing talent is. With cameraman Rajkumar Singh, this is Meher Raj Singh for DD India, Delhi.
Well, the global football governing body FIFA revealed Maple and Moose, Zayu the Jaguar, and Clutch the Bald Eagle as the mascots for the 2026 World Cup. Each mascot highlights one of the host nations, with Maple representing Canada, Zayu Mexico, and Clutch the United States. FIFA describes Maple as born to roam, journeying across all of Canada's provinces and territories while connecting with people and embracing the country's rich culture. Zayu, from the jungles of southern Mexico, embodies the rich heritage and vibrant spirit of the country. The 2026 Men's World Cup will be the biggest in the tournament's history. An expanded World Cup will feature 48 teams, 16 more than in Qatar 2022, and it takes place across 3 host nations for the first time. The former Spain and Barcelona captain Sergio Busquets will retire from playing at the end of the Major League Soccer season in December. The Inter Miami midfielder won 32 major honors in 18 years at Barcelona, including 9 La Liga titles and 3 Champions League. So Busquets, in fact, joined Inter Miami in 2023, linking up with former Barca teammates Lionel Messi, Jordi Alba, and Luis Suarez. Barcelona came from behind to beat the promoted Oviedo 3-1 in the La Liga on Thursday. Barcelona, in fact, trailed after Garcia gave the ball away when he left the arena, and Alberto Reina scored for the host with a shot from near the midfield circle. The Catalan club rallied in the second half with goals from Eric Garcia, Robert Lewandowski, and Ronald Araujo to secure its 5th win in 6 league matches. The result left Barcelona 2 points behind the leader Real Madrid, which won 4-1 at promoted Levante, and this is to maintain a perfect record after 6 rounds. The American tennis star Coco Gauff advanced to the round of 32 at the China Open after a commanding straight sets win over Russia's Kamila Rakimova. The defending champion claimed a 6-4, 6-love victory in her first match since the US Open. Showing strong defense, Gauff saved several breakpoints. She dominated the second set with ease. The 21-year-old will now face the Canadian Leila Fernandez in the next round, promising an exciting clash between 2 rising stars of world tennis. Well, that's all we have in this edition of the News Hour. Thanks for watching. For those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. Once again, I'm Mark Lynn. From all of us here, thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.